I get asked more and more as time goes on, how do you tell if a car is real or fake? And obviously this is due to the increasing amount of Chinese factory customs, aka counterfeits, aka fakes. Yes, factory customs are fakes because the Chinese customizers are using very similar Mattel molds to try and emulate what Mattel does and recreate it, and sometimes try to deceive. And there are so many questions and misconceptions surrounding factory customs. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they good quality? Are they worth it? Is it illegal? Is it wrong? What do I do? Where's the line between a handmade custom and a factory custom? And today I want to touch on all of that with the centerpiece conversation on all of the next gen Cars 3 racers the factory customizers have done. There is a lot to talk about. I am very excited because I just want to say, first off, right off the bat, kind of the question that inspired this video to get made is Jim Reverick right here. He is one of the most expensive next gens right now on the right, going for around $70 USD on eBay. You could get this factory custom here that looks really similar for like $10. And so at the end of the day, it is up to you guys. It is up to the individual collector to decide, is that worth it to them? Is the maybe slightly worse quality okay to them for the $50 less price tag? Now, before we get fully into it, I really want to emphasize that today we're going to be talking about the minute differences between factory customs and their Mattel counterparts, where the factory customizers are doing exactly what Mattel did. They are trying to, at least. This does not apply to when they do something like a Chrome Cruz Ramirez, which is obviously a factory custom fake, because Mattel or anyone, no one has ever attempted to do this kind of car before. No one has ever attempted to do a tractor that is black and white and looks like a real life cow. There's differences to the factory custom tiers, and those ones tend to be more popular because, well, I can add something to my collection that Mattel has not done and will not do. But with these actual next gens here, or the trainees that we'll also take a look at, it's a little bit different. And so we're going to start with just that, the trainees, and then we're going to move on to all the other sponsored colorful next gens, go through the differences, how to spot which one's real, which one's fake. And I also want to give the biggest difference and the biggest reason why the factory custom is the factory custom and it is therefore fake. Now, all factory customs are made in China, and therefore they are like the Chinese Mattel cars used to be. They do not share any of the tiling qualities that Mattel now features, being the glossier paint, the blurrier decals, of course, saying made in Thailand on the base, the made in Thailand style of date stamp there, P29, versus how they used to do it, being a few more digits. And also, to expand upon that, I will be using the Chinese version of all of these cars if available. Obviously, with Jim Reverick right there, Mattel only did him in Thailand. So not only does that make it easier to spot the factory custom fake, but also there are a lot more differences than between the Gabriels here, which are both quote-unquote made in China. And yeah, I will be using the closest Mattel variant to the factory custom. So when it comes to Tim Treadless here, I won't be using his chrome variant here. I won't be using, obviously, the Thailand variant that is bright orange. I won't be using the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse version of Tim Treadless here, another knockoff, which is technically different from a factory custom. Knockoffs are actually meant to be sold in packagings in foreign countries, mainly Asia, and they aren't sold on eBay in mass, loose, and titled and kind of advertised as an actual Mattel release. So starting here with Gabriel, the number one difference to me to identify that this is a factory custom fake are the eyes. The eyes look horrendous. He looks like he's out of a Conjuring movie. He looks terrified, or maybe he is the Terrifier, because it just does not look right at all. He's got like some added whiteness in the retinas right there that just make his eyes look incredibly scary. But other than that, it's a pretty good factory custom. He's got some added blue here in the grill, which isn't perfect. And the decal here is also going to be a little wonky. You can see they did their best to recreate the font, but the lettering is a little less bold than it is on the actual release here. You can also see that Rust-eze Racing Center text does not have that red background that the Mattel version has. So those are a few other quite major differences. But they both have very similar wheels, although if you look closely, does the white text actually say Lightyear on it? It doesn't really look like it. It doesn't look like they did a good job of emulating what the black walls of the tires say, which is Lightyear. Now, granted, these people, I mean, the Chinese factory customizers, like, they mainly speak Chinese and Mandarin and all that. So when reading a very stylized version of Lightyear text, they might not actually understand that that's what it's saying. And so therefore they just kind of make it a bunch of random jumbled letters. And so there's that. The exhaust pipes look pretty similar. You have the gas caps there as well. That's pretty good job by the factory customizer. Let's make sure we keep the factory custom, though, on the left at all times during the video. But yeah, for them to be able to paint the gas cap blue is a detail that, you know, they are very liable to miss. And speaking of details they are liable to miss, they missed the window bars here. And that's likely because most back windows on these factory customs will not have window bars. They just simply don't make them. Like, yeah, they don't make back windows with the window bars. Almost none of them will have it, and so that will be another easy tell when it comes to this. Another easy tell will be that the factory customizers tend to just use a completely different wing or spoiler. This one they got right, though. Again, you can see with the 049, the font is much thinner and therefore definitely not accurate. Also got this line going in between the gray and the blue, which, yeah, I guess it's there on the sides, but it's not there on the back of the Mattel Gabriel, whereas it is here on the factory custom. Now let's take a look at the base, which I always find very interesting. This base is one of the better ones you'll see from a factory custom because it includes everything besides a date stamp that a real release would. Made in China, Disney, Pixar, the product code, and Mattel, and their address. See here, that's almost exactly the same. You do have a different, more accurate product code, the date stamp itself, and slightly different placement. But yeah, as far as bases go on factory customs, this one on Gabriel is one of the better ones you will see. So we should be able to move through these trainees a little bit faster now that we have a basis understanding. We're going to start here with Sudeep, and another big tell yet again are the eyes. The eyes are, while not as freaky, they are quite a bit bigger. And here's another example along with Jim Reverick for Sudeep, the real version, costing about 10 times as much as the factory custom. And at the end of the day, it is up to you. Do you value having the real thing, or are you totally cool just having a fill-in, a stand-in placeholder that's pretty much the same, but, you know, obviously not real? You have the differences again in the Rust-eze Racing Center text. Now here, they did not do as good of a job with the tire, or the wheels rather. They are pure yellow and painted very, very well on the Mattel version. And yet they are a little weaker. They're a little greener, especially on the inside, and just don't look as good as the Mattel version. Speaking to the quality of the factory customs, you know, it's okay. It's like sometimes better. It's not very consistent. Sometimes better than others. And there are the grills and all that, which I'd say they got down pretty close to what the Mattel version had going. Now, this is a relatively newer factory custom. The Gabriel one was a little bit older. Now here, guys, this is one of the only times you will actually see window bars on the back window here. Now, granted, it's a different model of Next Gen, but the window bars are there. The window is also kind of a glazed style instead of the clear transparent that the Mattel version has into the interior. 083, again, a huge difference there, and also in the coloring of that yellow stripe. But hey, you know, if I wasn't as fortunate as I am, and I am very lucky to be in the spot I am now, I think I would be a guy who would be totally okay with a fake Sudeep. In fact, in other things I have bought in my life, I have chosen to buy a fake or a worse quality version just to have it. Maybe it doesn't provide as much functionality. Maybe it won't last as long. A lot of people do this with Gucci or Louis Vuitton purses. Like, they're totally fine having something that looks very similar. Maybe the leather isn't as good of quality. Maybe it isn't actually real leather, but they don't really care about that, right? And so, it really comes down to personal preference, and I find the trade-off really interesting. Like, maybe if the real Jim Reverick was only $40, I'd be willing to spend another $30. Like, please let me know in the comments below, what is it to you that makes or break the real thing from the factory custom? Here with Krzysztof, who has always been exactly the same as Sudeep. They were released together only internationally and carry the same value. They were both done as factory customs at the same time as well. You have the eyes as a major tell here for Krzysztof. The mouth is also slightly different. It doesn't pucker at the lips. It's more of a straight slit mouth. Now, I will say here, I think they did a better job with the wheels. It's a nice shade of green, actually. The Mattel version went for a darker shade. And honestly, I almost like the factory custom wheels a little bit better. It just seems a little bit brighter. And, it's a little softer tone of green. But there you have the 021 decal, looking quite a bit different as per usual, as we've come to learn. You do have the window bars on this one. You have the punched gas cap there. Again, the Mattel version is always going to be on the right, the factory custom on the left. That got really bright. And you have the 021 there as another big difference. Moving on to the last trainee that Mattel has done a factory custom for. It is none other than Aiden, the orange trainee here that was released with Gabriel. So they kind of did these in pairs. I don't really anticipate them doing too many more of these, but who knows? Really, who knows? I feel like they only did these ones because they actually got the real versions in of them. The only one I could see them maybe doing is Tom W. But all of the other ones that they've done, whether it be Ernesto, Junie, what's the one that starts with a K? You got, of course, the Shriram in there. The factory customizers, being from China, never came into contact with those since they were made in Thailand only. Whereas all these ones that we're talking about now were the earlier ones made in China, along with Tom W., who they have not attempted yet. Again, let me stress, it all is very country-based. Like, everything that was made in China. Now, I know that'll be a little different here once we get to the, Jim Reverick, but there's a reason why Jim Reverick got made. Trust me, there is a reason. Some of these, though, are a little surprising. Like Nick Shift, I think, is pretty surprising to me, but yeah, it's a lot easier for the factory customizers to make a fake of something that was produced in their country. If it's in Thailand, they're going to struggle a little bit more. And let's remember, back in the day, the Chinese eBay sellers who are selling these factory customs now used to get all the real releases in several months before they were released in stores. And so it's the same people, guys. It's the same group of people. Now, here again with the eyes, very different, darker eyes, and you have that black outline around the eyelid, which is pretty different. They also went for yellow around the headlights here instead of orange. This one's really good in terms of the wheels, I'd say. And the decal, the Rust-eze Racing Center decal, which, again, this is the fake one, looks solid. It's just a little bit darker than we would like. So far, the wing is pretty much the same. Obviously, it's a little differently shaped, maybe a little bit thicker, but yeah, pretty much the same. We'll see a little bit more egregious errors in the wing placement here soon. All right, so there you have all of the Rust-eze Racing Center trainees. Before we get into the next gens, I do want to show you a little bit of an oddball one, and that is just for funsies here. Thomasville Jackson Storm. Huge difference here. The factory custom is glossy. The real deal is a matte finish. And also the decals are just insanely different. They really did not put up a good attempt with this one, especially in terms of emulating the real thing. You have Thomasville Speedway there, whereas you have Sputter Stop on the real one. You have a revolting decal there, and it's not even there on the real deal. They just kind of went in their own direction. It's like, It's that meme where a student gives like a friend their homework and they're like, hey, don't copy, like change it up a little bit. Like that's basically what Mattel did to the factory customizer here. They're like, change it up a little bit. Don't do the same exact thing. Now, obviously, that's not what happened, but it's funny. Some of them are the same. They got the cat mole oil one there. They got this North Carolina decal Gastonia, which actually looks better. Actually, no, my bad. I'm sorry. This is the real deal. This is the factory custom, of course. It looks better and clearer on the real deal. You have Igniter Liquid Adrenaline, which is actually really cool to see in a retro font like that. I don't believe the company existed back in the 1950s, but clearly they did not have the Never Tire decal that should have actually been used. And yeah, they also put that logo on the spoiler, which is actually really cool. I have to say, seeing Igniter, even though that font, that Igniter font, is so common on Microsoft Word, it's still kind of cool. The windows are entirely different, especially on the back there. Again, no window bars. And you do have the 2.0 in the center there instead of really any of the other decals. Sputter Stop, Never Tire. They are there, but they are just extremely small and in that dark red text. I'm not quite sure why they went for that. Like, I really don't know. If they had the decals, why couldn't they just make them larger and emulate the real deal? But who knows? Can't really get into the minds of the factory customizers. They do what they do. All right, let's move on to JD McPillar here, the toe cap next gen. This one is going to be quite similar. I'd say this is one of the better ones they've done, and honestly, it's one of the newer ones as well. A huge difference, though. The biggest difference to me here is going to be the wheels, and that's another major tell. When you after looking at the spoiler, the wing, look at the wheels. On the factory custom, they tend to go with just black wheels. That's their default. If they can't get anything else, it'll be a black wheel. The real deal JD McPillar here has gray wheels with the yellow trim. The real deal also has a much brighter, vibrant purple color. I would say they got the hood decal pretty good. The eye expression is a little bit different, but I think that can be overlooked. This one does have the window bars, but again, it's the other model. The kind of thicker model next gen is going to lack the window bars a lot more frequently than this model will. Now, the contingency sponsors on the JD McPillar factory custom here and most of the factory customs are going to be a bolder white and thus a little bit more unreadable compared to the Chinese real deal version here. 4 slightly different. Everything else, though, looks pretty much in order. I think they did a really good job with this one. This is definitely one of the better ones. Although they completely misfired. You can see the 4 right there is supposed to be yellow. They put it in like black. It's barely even there. Yeah, I mean, they even put the toe cap decal in just a horrible color. Not really sure what they were going for there because it's certainly not readable. The base here, made in China, you have a product code and an abbreviated address right there. The product code is completely wrong because I don't know, are these bases, maybe the bases are rejected from Mattel's actually factories, like old rejects. It's very possible that could be the case, but either way, those product codes are going to be quite inaccurate. Here we have Dan Carcia. Biggest difference here, the yellow bumper is not painted. They just made it blue like the rest of the front of him. They also went for a much darker blue on the hood there instead of the bright blue. And here's what I'm talking about. The wing is a completely different shape. You can see this is the square with the little tips in the center there. The humps, kind of like a camel hump. And yeah, it's just a different shape and different vibrancy and all of that. This one I do think is kind of cool, though. I like the darker look on Dan Carcia a little bit. And again, bam, as you guys can see, different wheels. You have black, and for whatever reason, they went black and blue in the back. They went mixed wheels here, which is actually kind of cool. See, this is the other thing with factory customs and the reason that I buy them. Because I have the real deals, I'm not motivated by that factor necessarily. I'm motivated for the differences and kind of the alternative paint jobs and stuff like that. And like we have here, the wheels are different, the wings different, so it gives me reason to get it. The contingency sponsors do look pretty good here. Not quite as good, I would say, as on the real deal. Again, they went with a darker blue instead of the lighter blue. And that actually makes a larger difference than you would think because it bleeds into this script logo here. You can see the windows are also different. Yep, on the back, it bleeds into the back here as well. Good stuff. That's another one of the newer ones. And in fact, over the last month, they've done a lot of these. Leading up to this month, they had barely done any. Like kind of more the common ones, Tim Treadless, Ryan Inside Laney, Danny Swervez. But now they've done a bunch more. And that also includes Jonas Carvers, which is going to be our first one that is cross-country. Literally. Mattel has only done Jonas Carvers from Thailand, and yet this is a, obviously, Chinese factory custom. I do think maybe the Tomica Jonas Carvers has something to do with it, but the Tomica version of Jonas Carvers, actually, you know what? I'm going to stop and go get it so we can really flesh this out. Yeah, so here's what I mean. When you have an instance like this where the car was not made in China and yet they're still able to do a factory custom of it, you got to think, Tomica, well, hey, that makes sense. And bam, you can see what the Tomica version kind of donates to this factory custom. And that is the brown, almost vinyl top here, including the roof and part of this back part here. Because for whatever reason, they just made it brown, which is not at all what the Mattel version is. It's much more of a darker red maroon color. That matches the same patch there on the hood. Here, the patch on the hood is that, almost correct color, but then they just went with this brown here on the roof and all that, which is much more similar to what the Tomica version has going for it. And obviously they were able to do a more accurate eye expression to the Tomica version, or, in light of the Tomica version, because all the other next gens kind of have the same eyes going on here. So I find that super interesting, and it will come back into play with Jim Reverick, another one that Tomica has done. But yeah, you can see no stall there. You got the blocks, pretty cool design. Headlights are a little different. Again, they went with the black wheels. When in doubt, go with black. Well, you're close, but the real deal does have some gray trim. The contingency sponsors look pretty good. Honestly, the 123 number looks much better on the factory custom because it's a pure clear white compared to the blurriness on the Thailand variant, which, here's another factor. Like, a lot of people may even prefer the Tomica Jonas Carvers the factory custom Jonas Carvers or the factory custom Jim Reverick, because they're made in China, and everyone has complained about the Tomica variants since they started being made in that country in 2018. Because, like I said, blurry decals, worst quality overall. Let's go back to China. People have been clamoring for that. And especially when they were so close to completing the next gen set from China, and then they had the switch, and there's a handful that never did get made from China. Here's kind of like that second chance, if you guys know what I'm saying. But yeah, the roof here just looks so weird being brown, but it's a kind of interesting, color choice that I kind of dig. Like, it's not bad. You think brown looks bad? It's not too bad on Jonas here. And you do have the 123 nose stall. It looks pretty similar on the back here. There is your base. And there's your base on the real dealio. Good stuff, guys. So right now, as I'm recording, I'm also kind of watching the NFC Championship game between the Lions and the 49ers. And wow, really disappointed to see the Lions blow that lead like that. We'll see what happens, though. It's only the third quarter, I believe, right now. Crazy, 24-7, and now 24-24. Here we have Ryan Inside Laney, another one they did pretty good because the eyes actually look quite similar. And there are a few eye variants of Ryan Inside Laney from Mattel. There's one with smaller eyes, but like I said, I'm going with the more similar versions here for the comparison. Starting off with the base this time, you could see the differences there. The wheels, they are that metallic blue. They got that right, but again, missing the orange trim that the real deal has. The real deal also has darker orange circulars. Circulars? How about circles or sparkles? Whatever, dots, whatever you want to call it, in the pattern on his hood there. Model seems to be a little shorter than it is on the factory custom. It's also a brighter orange, a little hard to see over the camera, but if you look closely, you can see that it is a more vibrant, pure tangerine orange. The contingency sponsors always have looked bad on him. I don't know why they didn't go with white, but they've always done a gray. And honestly, yeah, the factory custom got that. Ooh, look at that gas cap. That's ugly right there for the factory custom. Yeah, this is another one that's pretty gosh darn good. Really can't complain about that. And that's going to be one that slips under a lot of people's radars because it is so similar and easy to miss. Now here I probably argue is one of the better factory custom next gens they've done, and almost to the point where they actually were going for something different. Were they going for a metallic HJ Hollis? All of his purple components are metallic for whatever reason. Not really sure why they did that, but it looks awesome. This one was done a while ago now. And yeah, that's also kind of why a lot of people think it is meant to be this way, since it wasn't a part of the recent group where they did Jim, Rich, Jonas Carvers, Dan Carcia, JD McPillar, some of the trainees, Chase Racelott, Bubba, Nick Shift, Aaron Clocker, etc. So yeah, I do like this one a lot, and it is going to be obviously easy to tell which is the real deal and which is not with the metallic art in there. And yeah, I really dig it. It's not like shiny. It's more of like a flat matte shine on the purple there. It's a very nice shade of lavender, I would call it. And I think they did a good job on the decals here. Piston Cup, Combustor, Carbon Sire, Cola, 68, nice font. For whatever reason, there's like a line in the exhaust pipes on the factory custom. They did get the black wheels, but again, we'll just talk about the text on the tire wall there. They went with Nivian, Knivvian. I have no idea where they got that from. Maybe you guys know. Is that a Chinese brand or something? Because that certainly ain't Lightyear. Close. Not really. This one does have window bars, actually. I guess I kind of misspoke. A lot more of these are having window bars than I thought. But I do love that they even got the metallic on the wing right there. This is really cool. They also removed his rookie racing stripes as if this is a metallic, like, Transcontinental Race of Champions that occurs after Cars 3 when he's no longer a rookie. It's like they're lore building, the factory customizers. Like, my oh my, what are you guys doing? Here we have Eric Breaker, another one of the newer ones here, and honestly, one of my least favorites. It's just kind of an ugly one, in my opinion. They messed up the wing here. It's completely wrong, like not even close. Doesn't have the tips, doesn't have the shape. You also messed up majorly on the wheels here. You didn't even make them green, let alone include the yellow trim. So yeah, this one's going to be super easy to tell. Also, if you look closely in the paint on the real Eric Breaker, you could see the hexagonal pattern within. It's actually a really cool detail that the factory custom simply does not have. I will give it to them. The hood logo looks fine though. The Synergy text is a little thinner than you would like. His mouth is also different. He's got the kind of Danny Swervez open mouth right there compared to the closed mouth, the real version Sports. So yeah, this one might go down as the most different or the most messed up. Probably the factory customizer's worst effort on any of these next gens. I mean, you could clearly see the pattern in the body of the paint there that they missed out on. All right, moving right along. This video is going to be long, but I think people will enjoy that. I want to be thorough. I actually have all of the next gens they've done except for Paul Conrev. Somehow that one slipped through my craw. What the hell, Mr. Dockett? I'm sorry, guys. I messed up. The world's going to end because I don't have Paul Conrev. There you go. Made in China. Wrong product code. But yeah, here's Bubba Wheelhouse. You can see that the paint's a little bit different, a little bit more vibrant again with the blue or the shade of it on the real deal. The bubbles are darker on the factory custom. The mouth, pretty much the same. When in doubt, go with black. Yep, you got it this time. You got lucky. They are correctly black wheels. Now, the factory custom went for this weird black outline around some of the contingency sponsors here. I don't know why they did that. They certainly did not have to. It's like they just tried too hard and made it look really gross and weird right there. Oh man, the 49ers are kind of beating them down. This is not looking good. You also don't have the number 6 right here on Bubba. Like, factory customizers, we had a good streak going there. I was complimenting you on Ryan, complimenting you on H.J. Hollis, but we've gone off the rails these last two. You're completely missing the 6, so this one should be very easy to tell which one's real and which one is fake. Transberry juice. The wings look pretty good, though. I will give them that. Now, on the back here, I just want to show you this weird white line that connects the taillights. I don't know what they were going for here. This bumper area actually has a lot. Like white below the rookie stripes, kind of white messing up the 6 there. It's almost like ghosting and shadowing the 6. You just did not have to do any of that. Like, none of that white stuff is on the real Bubba Wheelhouse. Would have been cool if they maybe put like the original Transberry juice number, like 63. Like, if you're going to mess up, at least do something cool like that. Now, here's the newest one they've done, being Nick Shift, and the one that's most head-scratching to me. And maybe it's not as head-scratching because it's also one that they really messed up. But there is no good explanation for how they were able to do this. Tomica has not done a Nick Shift, and obviously Mattel has only done Nick Shift in Thailand. So this is kind of their unicorn, and it's probably, I don't know, is it most impressive or is it the worst one? Because they completely spelled spare wrong. They are missing the E, so this is now Sparmint, and they also have a much darker snowflake there on the hood, and the kind of the arrows on it aren't as thick. There aren't as many of them either. But the grill and the mouth looks pretty good. A little bit more detailing on the real one. The eyes are obviously different because of the Thailand to China switch here. This is more what it would have looked like if Mattel did do it from China. But yeah, obviously they did not. They did get the wheels right here with a nice blue. And honestly, someone should do a wheel shift. Someone should take these ones from the factory custom and put them onto the next gen here, made in Thailand. Because we know that Thailand has really struggled with the wheels on next gens. They just can't fully spray all the way on the inside right there. They just can't get in there. It leaves that very grainy looking aesthetic. With the Chinese ones, they're perfect. And lo and behold, they finally put Lightyear on here. Like, yes, that actually does say Lightyear. It's not great, but that is correct. It doesn't say Nivian or anything. So it would be pretty cool to do a little wheel swap here. They did a pretty good job with all this as well. The contingency sponsors are clear despite being in like a purplish tone. The 93 is more crisp despite being a thinner font. The leaves look better with the snowflake behind them despite being styled a little differently. The gas cap, though, they completely missed. You know, it was up here and you put it down there. So good on Mattel for that. The roofs look pretty similar as well. You do have an outline around those window flaps that the Mattel version doesn't have. The windows are a part of the main metal body on this one, not on the factory custom. They do have the correct wing there. So yeah, I don't know how they got this one to be able to be done. They clearly missed the leather there on spare, but all things considered, I think it was a good effort, and I think a lot of people will opt for that over the factory or over the Mattel version, to be honest. All right, let's do Jackson Storm here now. Why not, right? Why not? I'm waiting for the base that says children's toy car, which I will dispute. These are collectibles. Now, this one's hugely different. It's a little bit of a hybrid almost of the NASCAR Jackson Storm, of the Piston Cup champion Jackson Storm, because he's got this hood logo that's, yeah, like I said, kind of similar to the NASCAR version. It's more expanded out with the S logo in there. This one is pretty cool. You know, again, it's kind of giving people a reason to buy this because it's certainly, you know, you're not going to have any monetary reason to get the factory custom version of Jackson Storm over the real deal because they are both very cheap. In fact, Jackson Storm may even be cheaper as a real Mattel release than a factory custom. But you do have this cool Piston Cup Championship logo that he does eventually get in the movie, but Mattel has not released that version of him yet. And yeah, all the decals are just arranged differently. You have this flatter version of the S logo without the grid. They kind of put like the grid on his window there, making it look like a net, kind of like real NASCAR racers. The 2.0 is big and blue. Yeah, it's just kind of weird how they went about this one. It's almost inexplicable. Kind of like the Nick Shift, to be honest. Blue text on the wing, which actually looks pretty good. And one of the better things about it is this super accurate Piston Cup champion decal that, yet again, he has in the movie for the Florida 500, but Mattel hasn't done that version. He also does not have the rookie racing stripes, which is accurate to the Florida 500. Super easy variant that Mattel could do. I don't know why they haven't. It could be like the road trip version of Lightning McQueen. It's like, if you just start releasing that one now instead of all the old original Jackson Storms, I think you would have a lot more success selling them. Here we have Aaron Clocker. Now this one here was snuck in from China in a multi-pack before it was released from Thailand, so that is the rationale for this one. The Chinese version has this really kind of cool foil, chrome, gunmetal gray patch, along with the stripe leading into the bottom here. The factory customizers tried and kind of got a very industrial, sterile-looking gray silver color, which looks fine, but it's not 100% accurate. His eyes are also darker green. He's got a little bit more blue in the headlights there. When in doubt, go with black. Bravo. The contingency sponsors are like a pink instead of the red. Otherwise, they did a decent job with this one. The revolting text on the spoiler has a silver outline, and I have to say, I think it looks better. That just actually looks really cool because it looks almost worn down within the red lettering. I really like it. And there is the back. Revolting text is darker. And the 48's also darker, making it nearly ineligible. Unreadable, that is. All right, moving on to Chase Racelott here. Another one. The biggest tell here, well, it's going to be, again, that patch. Like with Aaron Clocker, he's got this similar style metallic patch. His being emerald, just a beautiful emerald green. The factory customizers yet again tried and came out with this, again, very sterile. It looks fine, just kind of a unalive shade of the color green, like a very kind of facility color. It's like something you would see in a bathroom. I don't know. It doesn't have much life to it. The Vitaline logo looks pretty good. For older active cars, they did get that on there, but it's a gray instead of the white for the text, and yeah, just slightly different coloring. You do have the 24 there. The white's a little lighter, kind of blending in with the green compared to the solid white that the real deal has here. They went for a darker green on the wheels compared to the real deal's much more lime green. They do have the correct light year text on the tires. Contingency sponsors look pretty good. Again, you could see the much more pure white. It's like they toned down the opacity on the white on the factory custom here a little bit. You have window bars on the fake and not on the real deal. Again, you could see the differences in the coloring of that Vitaline logo on the wing here. And then they're just completely missing that white stripe down the middle, and they put the text in green instead of white. 24 and the Vitaline script. Womp, womp, womp. You kind of messed that one up, guys. Now, this one here, right off the bat, Rich Mixon, one of the more popular ones. Obviously, Rich Mixon being one of the more popular racers. Looks like they did a really good job of, although my factory custom doesn't roll quite well. So that could always be another tell, but it's just not as reliable. You know, some of them are going to roll perfectly, but this one just happens to have kind of a, yeah, the tire is actually melted. Look at that. There's like a whole flap of skin on this tire that should not be there. That's actually really cool. Is it though, Mr. Dockett? Yeah, it is. It is cool because it gives me something to laugh and have conversation about with you guys. And it's just funny. But yeah, you can't count on the factory custom to have that flap of tire of rubber. But you can't count on some of these other things. But so far, this one's looking really similar. Slightly darker decal. Yeah, it's not as bright white as on the official release. The wheels, same story there. A brighter, more pure pink. So this one, you kind of got to get your fine-tooth comb out and really look at the decals. You can see the 36 is a darker lavender. This one's pink. Yeah, it really comes down to the coloring of everything here. They really did a good job. This might be one of their best efforts yet. You know, I mean, you got the tank coat spoiler. Perfect. It's slightly different color. You know, that's the only reason. That's the only difference here. Yeah, guys, they did a phenomenal job with this factory custom. And again, you can see with the base, though, that's kind of a dead giveaway. It doesn't have any mention toward Mattel. Yeah, that's going to be a big no-no when it comes to this. But that's probably their best effort. Like, that one out of all these really has no differences besides the coloring of a few things. Jim Reverick. Oh, my God. That's when you know you've been recording for like half an hour straight. Jim Reverick here will be one of the most different ones because like Nick Shift, he was not made in China. And on the flip side of that, this will make the factory custom probably the most popular of any of these. Not only is the real Jim Shift, what am I saying? The real Jim Reverick, like $70, so you could save yourself $60. Also, a lot of people are going to prefer a Chinese-looking version of that car anyways. People were clamoring for it to begin with, and by the grace of the factory custom gods, here it is. Now, how did they make this one? Well, it's pretty simple. They just took the decals off the Tomica version because the decals don't really look anything like the Mattel one. Mattel went for, again, a very more metallic, patch, shiny, how about zoom in here? There we go. Version of all these decals instead of just kind of the silver gray that the factory custom has here, and more flat or flatter looking decals in terms of the coloring and all that. When in doubt, go with black. You got it. Yeah, I mean, the real one here is just way glossier. It's another big difference. I feel like they could have done a better job with these contingency sponsors. Should have moved them up a little bit. You do have carbon fiber there, the 67. See these gray pillars going through everything instead of like the netting here? That's a dead giveaway. The windows being plastic pieces instead of a part of the main metal body. Yeah, look at that. The wings are just completely different kinds of blue. So yeah, when I show you guys this next to the Tomica version here, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, just look at the hood logos right there. I think that's the deadest of giveaways ever. Look at that. Man, the factory customizers can be quite clever sometimes. They kind of know what everyone wants. They're like, all right, they don't like Thailand. And they don't really like Tomica stuff unless they absolutely have to. Like, they absolutely, you know, if Tomica does something incredible, you know, some of the American fans will buy it. But, you know what we could do is take the decals off the Tomica Jim Reverick, which they would like if he was in the correct scale and, you know, maybe had a better expression. And we put it on the Mattel body. That's genius right there. Good on you, factory customizers. But let's see how you did Danny Swervez, which is one of the older ones that you attempted. Well, they went with the more purple variant. There are two variants of Danny Swervez, a blue and a purple. This one's almost like a cross in between the two of them. Biggest difference here is unpainted mouth, I would say. There's a lot of coloring differences for sure, but I think when you don't paint the mouth, it's kind of a dead giveaway. The wings also a little darker here. They did do a good job with the gold foil parts to his paint job, actually, unlike with Chase Racelott and Aaron Clocker. They did miss the orange trim, though, which, I mean, when they in doubt, they go with black, and there's never any trim a part of that conversation. But here you have no window bars. No window bars. All right, there was that one. And we have one more, guys. Again, no Paul Conrev. We'll talk about him in a future video. But none other than Tim Treadless, another one of the much older ones they've done here. Deadest giveaway. They went with a much glossier, kind of like milky brown up here in the front. Like, look how shiny that is. And then immediately becomes a matte finish in the orange, making this one actually quite cool. Like, it's a really interesting take on his paint job. The Mattel original version here has a very balanced paint job. Like, it's not overly glossy, but it's not a matte finish either. But it's more of like this coffee burnt bronze that goes to a fiery orange. This is a much glossier brown that goes to a matte flat orange here. The eyes are also slightly different, and yeah, they just aren't as detailed. If you really zoom in, it's kind of like you have the ring of orange, the half semicircles, and then yeah, the black semicircles. Mattel just put a little bit more detailing into the retinals there, if that's the correct word for it. I'm not an eye doctor. And yeah, the coloring just is not up to snuff. Like, look at this flame. They even got some red in there. They just made all one color, which is very inaccurate. Piston Cup, Combusted, Carbon Saber. Oops, missed a little bit of paint right there. No window bars. 28 nitro. Yeah, so just not as nuanced in terms of the detailing. Now, while they did get the wheels right on this version of the factory custom, there's a version out there where they put Danny Swervez's wheels on it. So the one time they actually use some trim, kind of funny. This one does have a little bit more accurate coloring, though, in terms of the orange and all that. So it's just kind of interesting. You know, it's a give and take world, right? What do you want? Do you want a new pair of wheels with some more accurate paint? I don't know. It's like these both have their positives and negatives, but I don't see too many people needing to go after the factory custom version of Tim Treadless. It's one of the easier ones to get, especially now from Thailand with this beautiful orange paint job. But guys, that will do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on factory customs? To answer some of the original questions, it is illegal. Yes, they shouldn't be doing this, but they've been doing it for over a decade. And has Mattel done anything about it? No, they have certainly not. So, I mean, maybe it's not. Like, maybe, I mean, yes, it is. It has to be illegal, right? Like I said, I'm not an eye doctor. I'm not a lawyer either. But when you're taking someone else's design and selling it using like very, very similar toolings and all that, it's certainly frowned upon, but Mattel clearly doesn't have the resources or the will to shut them down in China. In fact, they've moved completely out of China in terms of the Disney cars production. Is it wrong? Well, that's up to you. If you want to support this, then by all means. If you don't, by all means. No one's forcing you to buy these, but they certainly do offer not only a good price alternative, but a cool kind of additional alternative facet to your collection. Do you want maybe an alternative paint job Dan Carcia or an alternative paint job H.J. Hollis with metallic decals? And granted, some of these alternative aspects come in a little bit more hot when it's more different with the cow tractor or the chrome Cruz Ramirez or McQueen or whatever it may be. But nonetheless, guys, thank you as always for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys soon for another video. Never forget about Mickey Mouse Clubhouse Tim Treadless. He's my favorite. Bye now.